Welcome to online class arranged by National University. I'm happy to be the part of this journey, and I hope these online classes will come to a great help for the students. I am Muhammad Ishtaq Hassan, Assistant Professor, Department of English at Dhaka City College. Today I'll be discussing on Ernest Hemingway's Cat in the Rain. As you see on the screen, our today's topic of discussion is Cat in the Rain by Ernest Hemingway. Cat in the Rain by Ernest Hemingway. This is Introduction to Prose, and today I'll be discussing on Cat in the Rain by Ernest Hemingway. And in our today's class, you can see the highlights, that is short story and its characteristics, about the author, about the text, characters, themes, symbols, discussion of the text, lecture summary, and finally, I'll be discussing on the questions from this text. Let's begin with the description or the definition of short story. What is a short story? On the screen, we can see a short story is a fictional work of prose that is shorter in length than a novel. Edgar Allan Poe, an American short story writer, in his essay, The Philosophy of Composition, said that a short story should be read in one sitting anywhere from a half hour to 2 hours. In contemporary fiction, a short story can range from 1,000 to 20,000 words. So from that definition, we can easily understand the length of a short story. Our today's discussion of short story is based on Ernest Hemingway's Cat in the Rain. So we can say a short story presents one aspect of the life of a character. It could be an incident, an event, a description, or a feeling, or even a simple act. A short story can also impact a reader and even inspire them. Moreover, in a short story, the characters also share their innermost feelings, thoughts, motives, the emotions, and different ideas. Sometimes it happens that the characters in the short story also talk about themselves, and through their talking to the audience or the readers can understand the problems or some of the complexities of their life. Short stories tend to be less complex than novels. Usually, a short story will focus on only one incident, has a single plot, a single setting, a limited number of characters, and covers a short period of time. So, we can see the different characteristics of short story. As we have said earlier, that a short story projects all these things towards the readers. The readers can understand about the characters' feelings, motives, and at the same time, the readers also can understand the innermost happening of the characters. So these are the characteristics of short story. We can see on the screen that it is simple, one incident, a single plot, a single setting. The number of characters is very small in number, a short period of time. So all these things can be found in our discussion, that is Ernest Hemingway's Cat in the Rain. So we can see 5 important elements of a short story. So we can see number 1 is character, number 2 is setting, number 3 is plot, number 4 conflict, and number 5 theme. Let us see each of these characteristics. We can see that a character is a person or sometimes even an animal who takes part in the action of a short story or other literary work. So we can see the character could be a person or it could be an animal. In our text, we can see all these things. And on the other hand, 1 or 2 main characters may be introduced without full backstories. So the number of characters is very small in number here, and we won't be able to know about the background of the characters. Number two comes the setting. The setting of a short story is the time and place in which it happens. Authors often use descriptions of landscape, scenery, building, seasons, weather, and in our text, we also see the war monument. We can see buildings. The season has also some connectivity with the short story. Provide a strong sense of setting. So these things are also evident in our short story, that is Ernest Hemingway's Cat in the Rain. Another thing that we find in a short story is the plot. A plot is a series of events and characters, actions that relate to the central conflict. Short stories typically focus on a single plot instead of multiple subplots. So we can easily understand that a short story doesn't focus on different plots. Rather, it is confined to one plot. Next comes the conflict. The conflict is a struggle between two people or things in a short story. The main character is usually one side of the central conflict. So in this text, we find the lady. Actually, she is not named as lady, rather she is presented as a girl. And she doesn't have any name. We don't find any name in the text. But on the other hand, we also got the name of the male character. His name is George, but the female character is unnamed. We find the last of all is a theme. The theme is a central idea or belief in a short story. While short stories of the past often revolved around a central theme or moral lesson, nowadays it is common to find stories with ambiguous endings. So the endings are not so straightforward. There might be different kinds of endings, and the audience can easily understand, or they can make the idea what could be the ending. This type of unresolved story invites open-ended reading and suggestions, because the audience has to take the final ending. A short story is a short work of fiction, and it's a prose writing about imagined events and characters. Prose writing differs from poetry in that it doesn't depend on verse, meters, or rhymes for its organization and presentation. And on the other hand, if we see the novels, novels are another example of fictional prose and are much longer than short stories. So you can see there are some differences between short story and a novel. So short stories are short in size. On the other hand, novel is longer in size. Some short stories, however, can be quite long. If short story is a long one, 50 to 100 pages, we call it a novella. So the novella is the shortest version of a novel, but it is longer than a short story. Now we move on to our next slide. We need to know about the biography of Ernest Hemingway. As you can see, that his name is Ernest Miller Hemingway. He was born on July 21, 1899 in Cicero, now in Oak Park, Illinois, USA. And if we just see about his life, we'll find that his life is full of eventful stories. We see Clarence and Grace Hemingway raised their son in these conservative suburbs of Chicago, but the family also spent a great deal of time in northern Michigan, where they had a cabin. It was there that the future sportsman learned to hunt, fish, and appreciate the outdoors. In high school, Hemingway worked on his school newspaper, Trapeze and Tabula, writing primarily about sports, Immediately after graduation, the budding journalist went to work for the Kansas City Star, a gaining experience that would later influence his distinctively prose, distinctive prose style. He also won Nobel Prize, is seen as one of the greatest American 20th century novelists, and is known for his works like A Farewell to Arms and The Old Man and the Sea. If we just look at his life, we can see that he served in World War I and worked in journalism before publishing his story collection In Our Time. In this text, we'll also see that this was published in his collection of stories In Our Time. In 1951, Hemingway wrote The Old Man and the Sea, for which he won the Pulitzer Prize. In 1954, he won the Nobel Prize in Literature. Even at the peak of his literary career, Hemingway's body and mind are beginning to betray him. Recovering from various old injuries in Cuba, Hemingway suffered from depression and was treated for numerous conditions such as high blood pressure and liver disease. Early in the morning of July 2, 1961, Hemingway committed suicide in his Ketchum home. So rather it's uh, not a good story for us, rather it's a sad story for us that he committed suicide. So now we move on to another slide. So we need to know about the short story, and it's a story, and we'd like to give a description of it. Cat in the Rain is a short story by American author Ernest Hemingway, 1899 to 1961. It was first published in 1925 in the short story collection In Our Time. The story is about an American man and his wife on vacation in Italy. Critical attention focuses chiefly on its autobiographical elements and on Hemingway's theory of omission, that is, iceberg theory. So iceberg theory in this text has been clearly understood, and we'll see how it has been presented in the story. So there's a background of this story, which we find that is, according to the book Hemingway's Cats, Hemingway wrote the story as a tribute to his wife, Hadley Richardson. So we can see about the background of the story. That is, it also happened in his real life, and from that idea, Hemingway has written it. The couple had only been married a few years and lived in Paris, where she was left alone for hours at a time while her husband worked. So this is about their life, Ernest Hemingway and his wife. She asked for a cat, but he told her they were too poor. The incident actually happened in their life. When she became pregnant, he wrote Cat in the Rain, apparently based on an incident. Hadley found a stray kitten and said, I want a cat. I want a cat. I want a cat now. So we can see that this thing happened in his lifetime. And Ernest Hemingway has presented this story in this text. But apart from writing this text, this is not truly connected with his life, but he has presented something more in the story. Perhaps Freud is correct. We truly are looking into Hemingway's daydreams when you read his stories. Maybe Hemingway's wife is a true cat in the rain. So we can see the background of this story with his life. So let us know about the theme of this story. This is very important. The story has a very simple plot, and the reader must read between the lines in order to understand the story's theme. The theme of the story revolves around the lack of communication. So the lack of communication, or the gap in communication is one of the important themes of the story, and also the isolation and isolation and lack of communication. These are very connected things. The husband and his wife, who is never named. So one of the important things that you find in this text is that there is no name of the wife. The wife is nameless, and sometimes it is seen that the woman is not presented as the wife. Rather, she is presented as the girl. And we can also see that she doesn't have the long hair. And when she asks about the long hair, her husband doesn't say that you don't need to cut your hair. Rather, he doesn't say anything. So the lack of marital life, the relationship of the marital life is also the theme of the history. How people are alienated, how people are isolated can easily be seen in this text. So if we see this, the relationship between the husband and wife is not so good at all. And because of that, not having that relationship, uh, we don't find that they are happy in their conjugal life. As we see that neither one of the couple ever communicates. They are unable to communicate with each other. And the wife wants the baby. The baby represents the cat here. The wife wants the cat, but the man doesn't do anything for bringing the cat. And so we have the theme of discontent, struggle, helplessness, loneliness, conflict, and insecurity. So the theme of discontent, struggle, helplessness, loneliness, conflict, insecurity are the themes of this text. This is also true because influence of the war has a great impact on this story. So we can see that the war has a great influence on people. And it is also seen in this text also that how war has made people think. Cat in the Rain was written in the 20th century, and during that period, many of the writers based their works on the consequence of the war. So it can be easily seen in this text also. We can say that there is a problem in communication, and the people who are unable to make connection with each other. The reader might find that there is a lack of communication between these two people, this married couple. The wife and her husband George are so distanced, so they had a great distance, and they don't have any good communication, and they are callous about and they are indifferent. Passionately reading his books because they have come to their honeymoon, but the man is reading the book, and he is not paying heed to his wife. And if you just read from the text that the husband went on reading, lying propped up with the two pillars at the foot of the bed, while his wife was longing for having someone to take care of. So the wife wants that her husband will take care of her, but instead of that, she is not being taken care of. So for that reason, she wants a kitty to sit on my lap and purr when I stroke her. So this is taken from the text. And we can see that how war has made people think like that. And one of the important things we find in this text is the lack of communication makes people isolated. And if we just talk about the characters, we see that there are two main characters in the story, the American couple, and the two minor characters, the housekeeper and the maid. And this is the characteristic of a short story, because in the short story, there is we don't find a lot of characters. There's some small number of characters are there in a short story. And it is throughout the story, it is evident that the cat was also present directly or indirectly in all the scenes. For example, at the beginning of the story, the wife saw the cat outside. Then the woman talked at first with her husband about the cat. The cat is present everywhere. It is invisible. Sometimes it is visible. Then with the housekeeper, and finally the maid brought a cat. So we can consider the cat as a minor character of the story. The cat is present everywhere, and the text is centered on the cat, because the lady wants the cat. So the cat represents the baby. So the woman wants a baby, but the scenario is quite different. Her desire of getting the cat is not fulfilled. In this text, we also find the narrator. The narrator is in the text is the third person omniscient narrator, and this is uttered by a third person. And we can also see that the narrator narrates the story in a way that omniscient narrator. In spite of this, we can see that the reader is invited to imagine the actions as a second person narrative. So the reader or the audience is also working as a narrator in a sense, because they will read the text, and when they will read, they will interpret the text. Therefore, our sympathies as readers lie with the female protagonist, who is the American wife. So the narrator is narrating the story, and at the same time, the readers also have an idea about the text as long as they know it. We, we need to know about the summary of the text. So the summary will help us to understand the text in various ways. The short story, Cat in the Rain, was written by Ernest Hemingway in the 1920s. It is about an American couple that spends their holidays in an Italian hotel. It is a rainy day, and the American woman sees a cat in the rain. So, this cat has different meanings. The cat also represents the longing for the baby, for the child. If we just know this story, we'll know in that way. That is, uh, we think marital life as a wonderful time, because this is the time, or in this time they are going for a honeymoon, having a family, and one also finds the pleasure, comfort. But in this text, these things are absent. The story is about a young American couple who spend their time in Italy. The reader knows nothing about the couple's past, and even the American wife's name is unknown, which is the part of the author's intention. Hemingway generalizes on the problem of marital life and builds up a typical image of a wife unhappy, dissatisfied in her married life. The story begins with a description of a hotel where the American wife and her husband stay. The descriptive paragraph occupies a strong position of the beginning. Everything seems to be ideal with the characters, a cozy room on the second floor, a lovely view from the window, but the author's description of rain evokes a mood of sadness. So the people become sad because of the rain. To bring this air of melancholy to the reader, Hemingway introduces parallel constructions. The rain draped from the palm trees in a long line in the rain. So we can see the rain is also presenting some of the symbols of the text. Will be discussing at the later. In such a dull evening, the American wife sees a cat in the rain and feels a strong desire to get it. Having arrived, this cat sat under the table and tried to make herself so compact that she wouldn't be dripped on. The reader easily imagines a small, wet, homeless creature under the table in the empty square. In the course of the story, it turns into a symbol of loneliness. A parallel character to American Wife, both characters are inconvenient and lonely. The girl's decision to go down and get the cat makes the reader acquainted with her husband. He is lying on the bed reading. First, he proposes to go out for the cat his wife wants so much. But soon, the reader understands that he does it out of politeness, not out of love and affection. His answers are short and indifferent. He says, I'll do it, don't get wet. So he is telling her wife not to go outside, not to get wet. So the wife doesn't get wet. It means that uh, it is also symbolic in nature because we find that rain has also a symbol in this text. When the girl goes downstairs, she is greeted by the hotel keeper who stood up and bowed to her as she passed the office. So the hotel keeper shows respect to her, but her husband doesn't pay any heed to her. We can see the conjugal life is not happier. At the As the story goes on, we can see the complexity of the wife strengthens, and she becomes so much thoughtful of the cat. She wants the cat. So we see that uh, the climax of the story, I get so tired of it, she said. I get so tired of looking like a boy. So we can see that she looks like a boy because her hair is not so long. The American wife is tired of her routine. She doesn't say directly that she is not satisfied with her family life. But the reader can see it in the context, and this internal conflict, the conflict between the wife's wishes and her inability to realize them, is the main conflict of the story. She says, I want to pull my hair back tight and smooth and make a big knot at the back that I feel. So she is talking about the uh, traits of a girl, of a wife. So she wants long hair. I want to have a kitty to sit on my lap and purr when I stroke her. So she is not feeling well. She wants a cat. She wants to have long hair to look solid and respectable. She wants to have children and her own house, which are associated in her mind with silver and candles. And the cat in her dreams is a symbol of refuge from this life. I want it to be spring. She desperately needs changes, something new in her life. She needs someone to care about, to disclose the girl's emotional state, and to find out the idea of dissatisfaction. The author bases upon parallelism, repetition of the verb I want, I want. So this want becomes a want for her. So it's the kind of lack. She doesn't get what she wants. The American wife feels insulted with her husband's behavior and stays looking out of the window. It is still raining. The rain, a silent witness, forms the inner structure of her mind. It has also a symbolic meaning. It symbolizes an unfortunate family life. To the end of the story, the author gratifies the girl's wish and gives her the cat. But the cat is not the cat she wanted. But is not that cat And though the writer leaves it to the reader to gaze a further development of the events, it is predictable that the girl won't be satisfied and she won't get what she wants, and that she will never be happy with her husband. The big tortoise shell cat doesn't seem to symbolize home. It doesn't present any comfort. Rather, it is the lack of happiness, and it also shows that the people are not happy, and this is not possible for them to be happy in this time because they don't have the good communication, and as a result of that, they are not happy in their life. We come to the discussion of symbols. So water, cat, war monument, these are the symbols from the text. Now let us see how the symbols have been used in this text and what does the symbol represent. So if we just see about the symbols, we'll see some striking characteristics of those symbols, because the symbols also tell us about different aspects of the life, and they are longing for the cat, and the people are not satisfied with their everyday life, and there is no good communication with with the wife, and a lot of things are happening over here. So it also has some deeper meanings. Uh, the writer uses imagery and subtle skill to convey the readers the very truth of family relationship. While reading the story, the readers come to understand the symbols used in the text. It has a number of symbols. The first one will be discussing on water. We see the water from the very beginning. It was raining. The rain dripped from the palm trees. The water is a symbol of fertility. The land become fruitful by water. However, she doesn't become wet, which means that nothing can grow from her sterile home. The water never touches her, she doesn't get wet. So the water is the representation of fertility. Her becoming of mother is not possible. It also represents that. Thus, Hemingway is portraying an attitude towards marriage. On the other hand, rain also symbolizes sadness and dullness. On the other hand, the cat is presented as the symbol of a baby, the symbol of a child. The woman wants. The woman wants to protect that little cat, which stands for innocence like a baby. She doesn't know why she wants that cat so much. So a kind of mental feeling happens in her mind. She longs for the cat. She doesn't get the cat she desires. So it is quite natural for a woman to have a baby, and this is the affection she feels for the child. And we can see that George is absorbed in reading. In this honeymoon time, uh, George is reading instead of looking at his wife. And the American wife is referred as the American girl or simply the girl. Now we understand why they are having problems with their marriage, because they are on different levels. George doesn't understand the problem of his wife, and therefore their relationship is futile. Nothing can grow through their relationship. He just tells her with disinterest that he likes. And we also see that at the end, the lady gets a cat brought by the maid on request of the padrone. It doesn't seem to be the same cat she longs for, referred to as Kitty or the poor kitty. This one is a big tortoise shell cat, so which may not satisfy her. However, the important thing is that finally she gets the something to take responsibility to take care of. So we can see that the American wife that can be understood to resemble a lost cat, a cat in the rain. On the other hand, we also see the war monument, which also symbolizes death, decay, destruction, and the lack of memory. So it has a memorial to Italian soldiers who died in First World War, but it was replaced in the 1930s. The war monument can symbolize several things in the history. First, it contrasts with the public gardens. Gardens are often symbolic of new life, but the war monument symbolizes the death. The war monument reminds people of death. These two symbols are presented in the history parallelly to show the metaphor of the marriage of George and his wife. She wants a baby and new life in their marriage, but they don't get what they want. So in order to have a good connection, all of the people need to be together. Otherwise, the relationship is not possible. We're moving on to the last part of our today's discussion, that is the questions, the broad questions which are important. What is a short story? Discuss this cat in the rain as a short story. Number two, discuss American wife as a lonely person, character of American wife. What is symbolism? Discuss the symbol used in the cat in the rain. And you also see some of the short questions, symbolic significance of cat in the rain. How is the American couple portrayed? Short notes, American wife, George, and hotel keeper. So at the end, we can say that the married life of George and the wife is not happy one. There are some lackings in their communication. The lady wants the cat, she doesn't get. It means that their relationship is not fine at all. So with this, we have come to the end of our today's discussion. And in the next class, we'll be talking on a new topic. Till then, goodbye.